Hey, Andrew, you know what I just found out?
What?
We are the #1 most listened to alien podcast by aliens.
Get out of here. Seriously?
Yeah, we are otherworldly. We should give them what they're asking for. So, welcome to another episode of Mostly True Alien Stories.
They're coming.
UFO sightings. Many Americans have wondered about the dangers of unknown objects.
Scientists in Mexico pulling back the curtain. We need to save ourselves.
Listeners, Andrew, we're here. Another episode of Mostly True Alien Stories. I'm your host, Neal Girandola, a true believer of all things alien. And with me is Andrew Triana, who is a non-believer. He doesn't even believe you can do turkey hot dogs.
I don't believe that. They have chicken hot dogs. I haven't seen turkey hot dogs. Is that
They have turkey. They do have
really?
turkey ones.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Also, today's show, we have our guest. He is an alien abductee experiencer. His name is Perry Kroeger. He's a Broadway veteran, an artist, and
Wow.
we're going to get into his story about the alien abduction that he went through, not once, but twice. And as always, Andrew, you know we're here to dissect a reported alien phenomenon. We're going to break down the details of one of these reported stories and determine whether we're going to think it's a mostly true alien story or not. Today's story takes us to a hot night in Brazil, baby. In 1957, where a guy by the name of Antonio Villas Boas, he was a 23-year-old Brazilian farmer. He claimed he was abducted by humanoid aliens to create a hybrid child. But before we dive into that, let's jump into some alien news and entertainment. What do you have for us this week?
Dude, I've got some cool stuff. Our government has created a new task force.
Wait, we're doing a new task force now. Now we have another task force.
Yeah. I mean, it's because we're one, remember?
That's right. There's 4 others.
We were the 5th. Now there's a 6th. And it is the Task Force of Declassification of Government Secrets.
Okay, I mean, it's about time.
Yeah,
Right?
no, I think it's kind of cool.
Government does keep secrets. We know this.
So they announced it this past week, and basically what they're going to do is they're going to answer all the mysteries behind the secrets of the government. The declassified files that have been declassified. So, for example,
Like how they become millionaires off $180,000 salaries? That kind of secret?
no, that's not
I
even
digress.
true.
We are not a political podcast, everyone.
And that's not even true. I don't know what you're talking about. So they're going to declassify files on USOs. Have you ever heard of USOs? And I'm not talking about the "hello, my baby" entertaining the troops.
Space objects?
Yes, it is unidentified submerged objects. This is a new thing. They had discovered a spaceship the size of a football field recently that was going underneath the ocean at hundreds of miles per hour.
Yep. We talked about that. Luis Elizondo.
Yes, Luis Elizondo, exactly. So those are USOs.
I like this. So the fact that we're coming up with the whole thing that there's USOs now. I mean, how many years have we gone just UFO? And then we went UAP, and now they're going USO. There's some shit happening in the water then.
Well, you know what? I think I'm going to join the USO.
We're going to be a part of that?
Well, I'm an entertainer. I'm a singer, dancer, actor, comedian.
You're going to go perform on the USO circuit?
Yes. I'm going to perform in all of those unidentified submerged objects.
They're going to love you.
I think they will.
They're going to love you.
They don't have entertainment. Think about all the entertainment. They just bring people on their ships. They probe them. They rub them down with jelly. I mean, all kinds of stuff. But do they get entertained? Not really.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. There may be a whole new market opening up. Alien entertainment.
You know what makes this even more exciting with what you said earlier about how we are the #1 listened to podcast by aliens. I think they're going to go for it. Would you manage me? I mean, if I get like a gig,
No,
I mean, I could be.
You'll never
with
get work. I've seen you dance. Singing. Now that's another thing.
All right. So they're also going to declassify the 9/11 files. I didn't realize there were 9/11 files to declassify. That's interesting. The Epstein files. I find that one fascinating. And then UAPs, of course.
The Epstein files. The Epstein files and what they're doing, talking JFK as well. They're doing all
they're
of
saying
this
that they're going to release,
stuff.
like JFK is going to be the first file to be released, by the way.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means. So we'll see.
I don't think there's much to the JFK thing. The most exciting for me will be the UFO stuff. I'm still skeptical, though. I mean, they can say,
no.
you know what, they make you feel better by saying we're going to start this or this disclosure group.
And then who's going to track it?
And then, but I think it's just to make us go, oh, okay, that's great. Good.
No, I gotcha.
But then they only disclose what they want to disclose.
Right.
That's what I feel like.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I'm sorry. Okay, what else you got?
Okay, this is kind of cool. This was released on January 21st, 2025 from Antarctica. Now, this is video that was leaked that happened in 2022. This is from an anonymous whistleblower, and he has leaked photos and video footage of an egg-shaped UAP and an alleged alien sleeping inside a pod. Inside this area where this craft is, there's hieroglyphics.
In the cave itself in
In
Antarctica,
the cave, there's,
on the
Antarctica,
walls are hieroglyphics, or on the
walls
egg?
are hieroglyphics, and I guess out around the egg, they're not really clear. I mean, I watched the video and it was really hard to kind of see. It's like mind-blowing. It's testimony from Jacob Barber and his colleague that was on the Delta Force. They're claiming that they had transported several egg-shaped and octagon flying saucers as part of a top-secret UFO capture and recovery teams. Jacob Barber and his colleagues vouch for authenticity and their firsthand experience over a decade of witnessing UAP craft flying out of solid rock, flying out of mountainsides, out of the ocean. This footage, you can go on YouTube and check it out. Just type in Antarctica egg UFO, and you'll see the video.
Do they say what the purpose is of this egg and this alien?
No, because it's top secret.
So I don't understand why they got this giant egg spaceship in a cave. And
I think they landed there. I think the aliens landed there.
I get that, but I don't understand why they got this giant egg, right? And then the alien that is, I guess, overwatching it has to sleep in a little bunk outside.
He's so tired.
He's so tired.
Think
they gave him a little bunk.
They gave him, it's really sad. I mean, I watched the video and they're like, this is where he sleeps. And I'm like, man, that's worse than like Pokemon. Think about Pokemon. You put them in those little Pokeballs. What do they do inside?
If they can travel light years in seconds.
Shouldn't he have a better bed to sleep in?
Why park it in a mountain in Antarctica? It'll just come when we need you.
Look, what I was looking to see was like a mattress from Purple.
Sleep like an alien.
Sleep like an alien on Purple. I love it. I love it. So that I thought that was kind of cool. I'm gonna dig into that. So hopefully some more stuff will come up. Hopefully this whistleblower will come out and say who it is. I mean, because like you said, Jacob Barber's been talking about this for a long time, and he's got colleagues all over the government and with Delta Force and the Navy SEALs and all this stuff.
Good for him for keeping the conversation in motion.
I think so. But the video was uploaded. There's no trace of who it is, like who put it up. It's anonymous.
Could have been AI. Could have been AI. You never know.
Maybe.
This day and age, you don't know.
True. No.
I just think there's something off about it. I've seen it as well. You just watch it and you go, this wasn't thought through very well. I just feel like something's not connecting properly to making this truthful in its presentation. Okay, what else you got?
This is awesome. I think that this is awesome. Dan Aykroyd.
He's the biggest UFO conspiracy theorist there is.
In Hollywood, yeah. So Dan Aykroyd, for those of you who might not know Dan Aykroyd, and shame on you if you don't know who Dan Aykroyd is. He's a legendary actor. His comedy credentials include original cast member of Saturday Night Live and the Blues Brothers. You might know him from movies like Ghostbusters or Trading Places. But he is the official Hollywood consultant and lifetime member of the Mutual UFO Network.
So MUFON.
Again, MUFON rears its head on another episode of Mostly True Alien Stories. I think we're being subliminally communicated with.
They're definitely listening to us.
This is what Aykroyd said. I have seen 4, and I can't say that they are alien craft, and neither can the Air Force. The Air Force has been very interested in this, and they don't deny existence of these hyperdynamic, super aerodynamic craft. They don't deny, is how he put it. Now, another article that I read, it actually wasn't 4 times. It was 3 times, but in one of those times, it was 2 ships. It happened once in the U.S. and twice in Canada.
I've been waiting my whole life to witness a UFO, and Dan Aykroyd has seen it 4 times.
3 times. 3 times.
Yeah.
But one time he saw 2 ships.
It's like hitting a hole in one?
2 times or 3 times, but nobody's there to see it. Have you ever gotten a hole in one in golf? I have.
Well, then I think that you have a good chance of seeing a UFO too. All right, what else you got?
Movie recommendation. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
District 9. Did you ever see District 9?
So District 9 is one of my top 3 alien movies that I've ever seen. It's an independent film, I think.
Kind of.
Right? And it was a new writer.
Yeah, it was a
director
new
guy.
director, Neil Blomkamp, but it was
Mhm.
also produced by Peter Jackson.
Oh,
Peter Jackson of Lord of the Rings fame. So it wasn't that
yeah.
independent, kind of independent. But if you haven't seen this film, please, please, please. It came out in 2009. It is a great film. Here's the synopsis of it. 30 years ago, aliens arrive on Earth not to conquer or give aid, but to find refuge from their dying planet. Separated from humans in South Africa area called District 9, the aliens are managed by the multinational United, which is they're unconcerned about the aliens. I mean, they treat them like crap. And then one of the company field agents gets exposed to this mysterious virus and his DNA starts to alter. Fantastic film.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's something you got to see. And I love how they did the graphics, and just the story itself is also pretty heartwarming in a sense, too.
No, it's very sad.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
sad
Yeah.
how he's treated after he starts changing. It's really, it's just a great film. So listeners, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's a fantastic film. Last but certainly not least, I'm a big gamer and I'm very excited about this. There's not a lot on this game, Peggy 18, which gives information about upcoming video games that are coming out. New video game coming out on October 2nd, 2025 called Directive 820. All revolves, it's very much like District 9. This crew comes to this ship, aboard this ship in space, and the ship is infected with an alien organism and it starts taking over the whole ship. So you've got to fight your way and try to find a reason or cure for this organism, or maybe to join with this organism is the thing. They haven't really given a lot of information, but I'm excited about it.
I'm not a gamer, big time gamer, but I love looking at those kinds of games because they also are great storytellers in those games, you know, and when they start diving into that whole science of the alien invasions or how things take over, that's one of the things that excites me.
Yeah. One of the best games like that is called Dead Space, and it is wild. They find an alien artifact and it does all this stuff. And it's the only video game I've ever played where I actually am scared to play the game.
You get scared. You can't play it at night or alone.
No, I play it at night and alone, but I get scared. I have a nightlight.
You can call me if you get scared while you're playing.
Really? You would?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I should do that. I'll call you like at 2:30 in the morning when I'm up.
Yeah.
Hey,
just call
I'm
me
playing.
next time.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Why?
All right. Well, that's today's Alien News and Entertainment. Andrew, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'm excited about our guest today. He is not your average experiencer. And when we talk about alien abductions, cosmic visions, and mind-bending encounters, there are those who analyze them, those who study them, and then there are those who live them. Joining us today is Perry Kroeger. He's a visionary performer. He's a writer, designer, and artist, and he has spent decades shaping reality both on and off the stage. He has stood on Broadway, not once, not twice, but 3 times, bringing his theatrical magic to audiences from New York to Copenhagen, Bangkok to Moscow. And for over 30 years, he's been a creative powerhouse at the Growing Stage, the Children's Theater of New Jersey, where sets, puppets, costumes, and graphic artistry have transported audiences to realms beyond imagination. He's studied at the Vienna Academy of Visionary Arts in Austria. He's painted live at Burning Man, and he now resides at COSM, which is the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, as an art assistant, decorator, and instructor. He's got a 2025 vocal album dropping with musical director Tom Spahn. It's titled, I Want to Spank You in the Moonlight. Let's welcome our first alien abductee experiencer to Mostly True Alien Stories, Perry Kroeger.
There he is.
Perry, you just missed it because I did an amazing introduction on you.
I'm so sorry I missed it. It was all lies.
It was
right?
It was good. No, it wasn't. It
I
wasn't.
did make up some stuff.
I fact-checked it. It was fantastic.
Andrew, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Perry. Welcome.
Yeah, Perry, you're our first alien abductee experiencer on our show. I want to get right into it. At the time of your alien abduction experience, this was in
It would have had to
1970.
have been 1989, I'm quite sure, because that show was in 1989. Senator Joe.
Senator Joe. Yeah. So tell me about Senator Joe. What was
Well,
how did that come to be?
Okay, well, our mutual friend who's now left the planet, Tom O'Horgan.
Tom O'Horgan, the great director Tom O'Horgan,
He
who had
directed the
hair.
original Hair.
Yeah.
Yep, and Lenny.
And Lenny. And did you say Jesus Christ Superstar?
We did not yet.
Okay. Well,
But he had all three of those shows on Broadway at the same time.
yeah, I think it's a world record, actually. Anyway, he this is later in his career after his big successes. He wanted to start a pop music opera company called Popera. And one of the pieces he wanted to create was the story of Senator Joe McCarthy back in the 50s, the communist scare and the Hollywood trials and all that. Anyway, we wrote the musical of that. It was very stressful.
Joe McCarthy was heading up the whole, right?
Joe McCarthy and his lawyer Roy Cohen, and it was the first televised trial, like government trial. The show itself was rocky and went on forever, and was produced by a woman named Adela Holzer, who ended up to be a total crook. And
It was slated for Broadway, and you
it
guys
was
were
on
out.
Broadway. It was
on
in
Broadway.
the Neil Simon Theater for 2 previews, and then she got arrested at a phone booth down the street.
Turns out that she was a big con artist, right?
He was a big con artist, yeah.
Speaking of Tom O'Horgan, because I remember Tom O'Horgan mentioning to me at one point that all Broadway producers are nuts. They're calling you from an insane asylum while they're in a straitjacket using their tongue to dial the phone. He always said that.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Ever in it?
I wasn't in that show. I think I came around right after that.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I keep picturing you in it, but
Yeah. No.
Anyway, that was obviously a very stressful show to be doing. Anyway, we were at out-of-town tryouts in Port Chester, New York. And at the time, Gordon Harrell was my boyfriend, and he and I shared a hotel room across from the theater. And it had twin beds, like old-fashioned 1950s twin beds.
This is the night of this experience.
Yeah, this is the night of that experience.
Okay. And you're out of town. You're having tryouts for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so go ahead.
And that night we slept at this hotel. And it's significant that we were both in separate beds, because I started in the middle of the night, then I started to have like a fever dream I couldn't wake up from. And there were 3 shadowed figures backlit in front of me, talking amongst themselves telepathically. We're going to touch you. Okay, we're going to touch you now. We're going to touch you now. And they had these fingers. And
Or specifically, that's what you remember. They were saying, this is their conversation. They wanted to touch you. Almost as if
and I was either paralyzed or tied down. I could not move. It was more than any nightmare I ever had. It seemed real.
You're paralyzed. You're not able to move. This is
right.
happening.
And they're like, we're going to touch you now. And the fingers coming closer and closer and closer. And I'm getting more and more and more freaked out. And then the moment of contact happened where they touched me here on the shoulder. And I woke up just screaming my ass off. And Gordon was over me, like leaning over, looking at me, saying, it's okay, trying to wake me up. And I woke up.
Yeah, but wait, let's back up before you get to the next morning and talking. So while you were experiencing this, I want to talk about the characters.
Okay.
The aliens. Did you get a sense of what they looked like?
No, they were backlit.
Yeah.
And the color was blue-gray.
Yeah.
And it was a very feverish.
The colors, the backlit colors were blue-gray?
No, they were like showing up as a blue-gray with a light behind.
With a light behind. So kind of like their aura was kind of blue-gray.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
Don't put words into his mouth, Andrew. But no distinguishing features of eyes or anything along those lines.
No, I just knew that they were from somewhere else, and they were about to touch me, because that was the words. We are about to touch you.
Your initial response was you were frightened?
Never felt fear like that. I remember it. That's why this is stuck in my brain.
Yeah.
Because it's just more of a fear that I felt only that one time. It's not when I've felt fear in nightmares.
So were you afraid because this was an experience that was happening that you were out of control? You didn't have the control of it.
Yes.
But do you think you were afraid of them, or you were afraid of the situation?
I was afraid of the situation. I was more afraid of I guess I was afraid of them, but I was really afraid of what might happen if they touched me.
Did it feel like a long time? I mean, did it feel like
No, this is
just
not
really
a
brief?
long dream.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is this little chunk. And I mean, it was written off as a nightmare for years, but now it's really started to come back.
All right. So the next morning you get up and
I get up
Gordon-
and we were like, whoa, that was quite a nightmare, right? And he said, yeah, you were like screaming. And I said, okay. I was thinking, was I somehow in between worlds witnessing Gordon leaning over the bed and interpreting that as aliens? So I asked him, how long? Because that was an expansive time. I mean, I would say that was a good 5 minutes of them.
Right.
We're going to touch you. We're going to touch. So I asked him, well, so how long were you leaning over the bed? And he said, absolutely no time, not even seconds. I said, what do you mean? He said, I was fast asleep. I woke up, got out of bed, and leaned over you and touched and woke you up. That didn't match up.
But you weren't even screaming.
He said he didn't know why, but he woke up, it was like 1, 2, 3, woke up, got out of bed, went over and touched me.
Yeah.
On the shoulder.
And had no rhyme or reason to do it.
No.
There was
He
no
said
disturbance.
He just got up and did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the minute he touched me, I woke up.
You scared the aliens away. You scared everybody away.
Then it was like, some TV movie.
Yeah.
He got me by the shoulders. It's all right. It's no. And I did finally wake up.
Did the next morning he say, tomorrow we're getting separate rooms?
It was only that one night
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
that we
Okay,
stayed
good.
there. One of the other writers on the project, Jonathan Walker. Do you know him? He's an actor.
What do you think? I know all the actors, Perry?
I know Johnny Walker. Red, black, blue.
So
So
next
yeah, go
day, or it was a day later or something, because now I'm back at home in New Jersey, and I'm on the phone with John Walker, who's also stressed out over this project, and I'm telling him what I just told you, and he said, he listened, and he said, okay, stop. I said, what? He said, read Communion. I said, what's that? He said, it's a book, Communion by Whitley Strieber. Read that book. I said, okay. So, then days pass and I get a paperback copy of Communion, and I look at it, and there's a scene in it where the guy's in bed, he's paralyzed, he can't move, and there's 3 figures backlit. It had the same scene.
yeah. So after the experience, was it in all seriousness, was it troubling to you for a little while? I mean, did you think about
Yes.
it for a long time?
Long time. Never forgot it.
But what was troubling to you about it? What was it that was making you? Did you have anxiety over it, or whatever?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think the biggest anxiety point would be feeling like I'd had a nightmare, but this nightmare was different than anything I had experienced in that it felt real. It felt so real. And I've even had lucid dreams where you're half awake, but you're still in the dream. And that can be cool because you can say, whoa, I wonder what's around that corner consciously. And
Have you ever undergone hypnosis to try
No.
to see if you can get more information or no?
no,
That's why he's on the show. It's sort of like alien therapy for him. Right now, we're helping him through this. So that the experience didn't end there.
that was 89, say skip 6 years or in the mid 90s. And I'm at my friend Kenny's in Tribeca, and I'm asleep in the bedroom, and he's watching TV in the next room.
You get around, Perry.
Baby. And then I'm asleep here, and I start to have the same realistic feeling, nightmare feeling.
Again.
The first time in like 6 years.
Right.
But this is different. I'm in a field looking up, and I'm looking up at a really tall tripod, a classic discish UFO on tripods, and I'm looking up, and that same kind of fear, but less, as I look up to it, I think, that's what it looks like from the outside. And then I wake up again.
But you felt as if that was a continuation of the original experience.
Yes, it was absolutely connected it's like, because I was thinking, that experience where the 3 aliens wanted to touch me, that's where I was. I was in that craft, and that's what it looks like from the outside.
I was just mentioning to Andrew, I've never hit a hole in one and I've never seen a UFO.
I only saw a UFO in the sky, out at night in the sky. I saw one once, I think, and I'm not sure.
I feel like if there is this landing of aliens one day and it's all revealed that, hey guys, there are people from other planets, what is it going to do to us as a civilization? How will we react and respond?
We can hypothesize about that forever.
Yeah. There's so many different scenarios that could possibly happen that I don't know that would all be good.
Religion's going to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that goes out the window.
But actually, just before, when I was waiting to get on, I had a little fantasy about it is finally disclosure. The UFO is coming down from the sky. There's a whole cross section of humanity crowded around watching it, and all the grown women are going, ah, and the men are like, ah. And then there's this little group of teenagers that are like 14, 15, and they're all on their phones.
Yeah, they don't see it.
Or they see it, but it's like,
yeah. Can you guys speed it up?
Is this really? How long is this going to take? But what I was getting to.
Yes.
Is,
what are you getting to?
I saw amongst the stuff that I do watch, somebody said, do they exist? Was it a nightmare or was it an alien experience? And this person was questioning their own story. And I thought, whoa, maybe it's time for me to really look at this, less as a nightmare and more as an experience, an interdimensional experience.
For you to take that viewpoint and say, was it a nightmare or was it an experience? We would generally lean towards it was a nightmare. So if you get the feeling that was more of an experience, that's separated from other dreams. That's separating from everything else that you may have experienced when was sleeping. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's completely a different category. Because you're
different category nightmare, if that's
and which would make you go, man, that is, it must have been an experience.
And I've been doing alien art ever since. See, that's the other thing.
That's what I was just going to get to.
Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters, when he doesn't know why, but he starts building a mountain out of mashed potatoes. It's kind of when I look back since 1989, I've got this plethora of
alien art.
Like here, I made a skateboard. Look at that. See, this is the alien with the downloading their information into a DNA.
Do me a favor, Perry. Explain this to our listeners who only listen. Tell me what we're looking at on there.
A skateboard.
Yeah. So the back of a skateboard.
The idea is that there's an alien and they're downloading into our conscious world.
So you got the alien head at the top, down into the eye.
That can change our DNA
through the ship.
Something else. I don't know what.
That is so beautiful.
Transformative.
Cool
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And this guy.
Well, so that's the famous alien machine apparatus that is on the.
It's in Palenque on a tomb in Palenque.
Yeah.
In a pyramid.
Yeah. And if that's not an alien ship, I don't know what is.
It could be the Tree of Life. There's other things that it could be that are much more acceptable, but sure looks like a spaceship to me. I think that's how he would.
That's how he would have done it. Yeah, that's how he did it. Perry, where can our listeners see your artwork, your alien artwork, especially?
I'm about to change. I got to get more of it up on my.
They got to come to your house.
I have an ancient website. Yeah, they got to come over.
Perry's address is 1816.
You guys should all go there and just fuck with them. Let's say like aliens,
just like an alien, and just show up.
www.perrykroeger.com.
Well, Perry, I love your story. I really do, and I believe that you had an experience. Could have been a dream, but I feel like I love the continuation of your story. I like that there was a question and then an answer. There's many people out there that have these experiences that it's crippling to them. And, I hope that that's not that way for you. And I like your healthy approach to looking at this experience as well. I think that's very helpful to listeners who do have had experiences, I think, in a sense, to kind of look at it and go, look, you're okay. Everything's okay.
I think it's cool that you're using your creativity as a creative outlet to kind of just keep it alive for you. I find that
and now, awesome. I mean, it wasn't true up until a few years ago. Alien art has really taken off. I mean, people want alien art.
I want some alien art. I want some Perry Arthur Kroeger
I'm
alien
going to be
art.
making really beautiful prints of like that Last Supper.
Yeah, the Last Supper, and I'll pop it up on the screen, but the Last Supper is amazing. It's got Jesus laying on the table, and then you have all of the aliens as disciples around the table. What made you think of doing that?
Well, it's very unromantic. I thought to myself, I've always enjoyed the composition of Da Vinci's Last Supper. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if instead of apostles, there are aliens? And then I did that. So cool.
That's so unromantic.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And if you guys, listeners, get a chance, you got to check out Perry Arthur Kroeger's alien artwork. And if you have an experience you want to share with us, you can put it in the comments in this podcast.
Yeah, you know where they can see a lot of more recent stuff is just my Facebook page. I'm
Under Perry Arthur
love
Kroeger.
that generation that has a Facebook page.
All right. Now it's time for our
What's my favorite?
mostly true alien story portion of the show. Perry, on this, what we generally do is I will share a reported alien abduction.
You
Something
did
reported in
Walton
history.
last time, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we will all weigh in on whether we think it's a mostly true alien story or not. And today's story takes us to a hot night in Brazil. The air was thick with humidity, and it was in the remote farmland of São Francisco de Sales, Brazil. I think that's how you say it.
Yes, close enough.
The moon hung low, was casting a dim glow over the vast open fields, and it was 1 a.m. It was the kind of night where the heat still clung to the earth, even under the stars. For Antonio Villas Boas, he was a 23-year-old Brazilian farmer, and he worked at night. Unlike all of his other neighbors who worked during the day, Antonio had taken to plowing his family's fields at night to escape the scorching sun. And so he had nothing but his tractor, and it was just the steady rhythm of his work. He's just riding along on his tractor at night, and the only sounds he heard were you could hear the insects and the low hum of the engine of the tractor. And then all of a sudden, his tractor, the engine began to sputter. But before he could make sense of anything, a bright red light illuminated the field in front of him. And in front of him, it was hovering, just casting an eerie glow across the soil. And then suddenly his tractor dies and just silent.
I'm right. I feel it.
I'm on edge.
Now, Antonio looked up to see what he couldn't even fathom this. It was a strange egg-shaped craft, and it was descending from the sky. It was metallic surface. It reflected the moonlight, and it hovered just a few meters above the ground, kicking up dust as it slowly lowers itself to the ground. And then the hatch opens. And before he could even react, these three humanoid figures emerged, and they all rushed towards him. They were only about 5 feet tall. They were wearing tight-fitting gray jumpsuits and helmets that obscured their faces, and their movements were quick. They were methodical. And before he could do anything, he was about to run. He was going to sprint away. They grab him, and they forcefully drag him toward the ship. So he's fighting, he's trying to get out of it, but he mentioned that they were inhumanly strong. They pull him up into the metallic ramp and into the glowing interior of the craft. And once he's inside, the door seals shut, and then he noticed that the room was strangely bright, but there was no visible lights anywhere. So he couldn't figure that out. And he's ushered into a small chamber where the air felt thick, and he smelled like this burnt rubber mixed with sulfur. And it just made his head spin, and his stomach, he was feeling sick to his stomach. And then, this is where it gets really fun. They strip him naked.
Yeah.
And
Now it's a party.
Yeah. He tried to fight back, but
Did he?
the beings.
No. Did he?
Yeah. Oh,
He was like,
yeah,
please,
start with my
no.
pants.
Please, not my pants. Don't forget my underwear. But not my pants. Go ahead.
Thank God I had my
I
Velcro
just
suit
changed
on.
my underwear. Oh my!
So the beings, they weren't speaking during any of this. So as he's trying to fight back, they didn't even grunt. They didn't even breathe loudly. This is the things that he's mentioning that he just was odd to him. And they simply just overpowered him with ease. And then they smear him with this thick gel-like substance. So he's butt-ass naked. They're smearing him with this thick gel-like substance. And he said it smelled like rancid. It was like a
Really?
chemical-like odor. It just clung to his skin.
Disinfectant.
Maybe. So, of course, he's wondering, is this a medical experiment? What are you going to do to me? What's going on? And then the door opens up again, and a new figure steps inside. This was a female. She was different She was, yep. She was
happens.
taller.
This happens. Yeah.
She
This
was
sounds like a
taller.
lot of other stories. You know that.
Yeah.
This is when you hear, "Dear Penthouse Forum, I wouldn't believe it would have
Yeah.
happened to anyone except to me."
There's a saxophone in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Kenny
Yeah.
G's there.
She was tall. She was about his height. She had long platinum blonde hair and cat-like blue eyes and a small pointed chin. And now her body was athletic. She was toned. She's with small but well-defined features. So she sounds hot to me, but he's saying that there was something unnerving about her. Her skin was covered in red body hair, soft and almost glowing under the ship's light. So her whole body's covered in this body
Red
hair,
body
this
hair.
red body hair.
Kind of a buzzkill.
They didn't have Nair back then. That's why.
Mm-mm.
Right. This is the 50s.
If it was the 70s, they would have had Nair.
Her salon trips must have been expensive.
She never heard of a Brazilian, I guess.
No, that wasn't
Nope.
invented yet in
No
50s.
pun
Right.
intended.
He's the
He's in Brazil, but she didn't have it done. Okay.
They didn't invent it yet. So there she is standing there in all her glory, and she didn't speak. She didn't hesitate. Instead, she approached Antonio with a lot of purpose. And then she initiated what could only be described as an intimate encounter.
Let's get it all.
Yeah, they banged. They definitely banged.
I switched to Barry White.
That's right. Yeah. So Antonio was dazed and disoriented still, and he claimed later that the act wasn't forced, but it also wasn't exactly normal. So I guess he got turned on by her, and, if he's saying it wasn't a forced,
We'd have to get
Act.
somewhat turned on or wouldn't be able to make anything happen.
maybe, but you don't know. Maybe aliens have that gel. Maybe it just forced it to happen. It was like, oh, God. So anyway, she growled softly, he said. It wasn't a sound that didn't come out of her mouth. It just seemed to echo inside his mind, almost like telepathically. So she's making all these groaning sounds, but it's in his head. And then after what felt like an eternity, she pulls away. And before she left, she placed both hands on her stomach, then pointed toward the sky. And she walked out, disappearing into the shadows of the ship. That might have been what she does every time she makes love to somebody. She does this, and yeah, I was like,
Is it their version of thumbs up?
yeah, it could have been a thumbs up or a high five. Yeah.
They didn't have
No,
high
but she
fives
was
back then.
saying this baby will now be born in
Be in the stars.
I think that's what she's
Possibly.
saying.
To the sky.
Yes.
Probably, yeah.
This is what Antonio thought. He believed he had just been part of a hybrid breeding program.
Tony.
And we call him Tony now. Minutes later, afterwards, the humanoid beings returned in the ship, right? And they led Antonio through another corridor back to the hatch. So they took him out the back door, it sounds like. It's okay, he's done with him. The ship descends to the ground, and without ceremony, they just push him out of the ship, basically, is what he said.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and yeah,
He wasn't that good. She would have
they-
taken him.
I know.
they threw a quarter
She was
on his ass.
disappointed.
Yeah.
Disappointed.
She was
Yeah.
disappointed.
The moment he hit the dirt out of the craft, the spaceship took off, shot upward at impossible speeds, he said, and it disappeared into the night sky.
Okay.
And for a long time, Antonio simply just stood there. He was butt-ass naked. He's trembling. He's drenched in sweat, and he's covered in this foul-smelling
He still has
gel.
that shit on.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then he was just stood there in the field, silent, and his tractor's still dead. It's not going anywhere, and that was it. So afterwards, there was an investigation. So Antonio, he didn't immediately tell anyone of this story. He felt sick. He was exhausted, as if his entire body had been drained.
Mm-hmm.
And then within days, he started to experience these strange symptoms. So uncontrollable nausea, severe fatigue. He had painful red sores on his skin. And it was all as if he had been exposed to radiation. So Antonio confided in a Brazilian journalist, Yao Martins, who had been investigating UFO sightings. So Martins was intrigued and arranged for Antonio to be examined by a doctor by the name of Olavo Fontes. And he was a respected physician with ties to Brazil's National School of Medicine. And his diagnosis was that Antonio had been exposed to an intense source of radiation.
So there's a doctor's report.
That's the doctor's report. That's what he's saying. He was exposed to intense source of radiation. He claimed that all his symptoms were consistent with those found in radiation poisoning victims. There's a lot of skeptics emerged from this. They said some claimed he had hallucinated it due to working long hours.
Which would apply to my story as well, by the way.
You were probably working a lot of hours during your show and getting that
Very
up and getting it
stressful.
wrong. Yeah, yeah. But you weren't stripped naked and slathered with gel.
No, no.
It was grape jelly. They used grape jelly.
No, not by aliens, I wasn't.
Alder's all fruit, I think.
Others suggested it was a nightmare, intensified by the rural folklore of alien visitors, and some even believed it was a publicity stunt for attention, which I'm not buying that.
I don't.
He never made money off the story. He never tried to write a book. He never pursued television deals. And he became a respected lawyer in his later years. And he passed away in 1991. It doesn't say by radiation poisoning or anything along those lines. Other things to note, there were other sightings just a month later. On November 2nd, 1957, a UFO sighting in Levelland, Texas was reported by multiple witnesses, including law enforcement officers. I mean, that's not Brazil, but it was in Texas. And in the same region of Brazil, rural farmers also reported seeing low-flying, egg-shaped craft around the same time as Antonio's abduction. So that's the story. And now I'm going to pass it on to you, Perry. And I'd like to know if you would like to weigh in on whether you think this is a mostly true alien story or not.
All I can say is I like to think these things are true and that these people are really telling the truth. And that something I do actually believe is that, we live in one dimension here, but there's myriads of other dimensions out there, and it's interdimensional. Like some of it that he was up there and this all happened, but it only happened in his mind. But in another dimension, he was actually there. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about these things.
Multiverse.
The multiverse, yeah.
Sure. So wait, let me ask
that, you. I mean, in that respect, yeah, absolutely. I believe this guy. I mean, it would be nice to meet him and see if I really thought he was a nice man. And I love the fact that he didn't pursue anything publicly about it. That's a good sign.
You're saying based on what the facts that I shared within the story and the whole reporting of it, you feel as if, what does he have to gain from it, right? And by making this story up.
Well, experience these things, and they don't fit within their realm of existence as it is consciously. Mm-hmm. They fit more into an unconscious thing that did it happen or didn't it happen? I think more and more about that as I remember that experience of mine. And
yeah.
So yeah. I don't think people are lying. Mm-hmm. Whether it was three-dimensional, there's the spacecraft, ding, ding, ding. I don't know about that. But did he have an experience? Yes. Is he lying? No. That's my answer.
So you feel this is a mostly true alien story?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And
with
now I will hand
mostly true.
Mostly true alien story.
Okay.
And now, Andrew, I hand it off to you. Is this a mostly true alien story or not?
Absolutely not. And
why?
I'm going to give you reasons why.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so in the 90s and 60s in Brazil and Central and South America, the CIA, with a thing called Operation Mirage, was actually conducting fake UFO abductions to where they would give hallucinogens to people and they would think that they were being abducted by aliens. Now, this comes from Fontes that you mentioned, reached out to the APRO, which is the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, which is based in the United States. At the time, a gentleman by the name of Bosko Nedeljkovic.
That's really his name, Bosko Nedeljkovic?
Bosko Nedeljkovic. He was a CIA operative. He said that helicopters were flying near that area. They were flying and they were picking up farmers.
Wait, they were flying their helicopters?
They would fly around in that area, is what they would do.
Picking up farmers?
They're picking up people, yes. And they're
like landing and go and get them?
Landing, getting them, giving them hallucinogenic drugs, and making them appear that it was aliens. Now, here's a little backstory on Villas Boas. He comes from a very wealthy family of farmers. So he had all the farmhands working during the day so that he could stay cool. And then he would drive the tractor at night and do the plowing. He was one of 4 families in that whole area that actually owned a gas-powered tractor. in the 1950s. So they were pretty wealthy.
What were they farming?
I don't know. I don't know what they farmed, but they farmed. They were plowing at night, which is really weird because I have friends here in Indiana that are farmers and nobody works at night.
57. That's a different
It's
time.
weird that he was out in the field.
But headlights? Come on, how good could the lights have been on the tractor?
Well, I think you know your field. You just got to roll straight lines.
Not in the dark.
Yeah.
In
Thanks, Perry.
98.
Okay. We're just going to shut Neal off, Perry.
Two
You and I
against
are going to
one.
talk.
But the only reason I argue this is because I have seen farmers farming at night.
No, I have seen them plowing up wheat fields and stuff. Yeah, I
Yes.
got it. Okay. So, according to Kovac, the helicopter flew overhead over Villas Boas. They sprayed a gas onto the ground, and that was the smell that he smelled
So
before.
Kovac was directly a part of this particular.
He was in charge of this area of
So
abductions.
so
during that time.
So he knows exactly what happened that night.
Yes. Now, here's the interesting thing. The men that he saw that had helmets with breathing tubes, according to Kovac, they were wearing these breathing apparatuses. They were humans. They were wearing the breathing apparatuses so they wouldn't be affected by the gas, the hallucinated gas that they released on Villas Boas, so that he could start thinking that this was a spaceship. That's why they had all these breathing tubes and all this stuff.
But how would they know what he is going to think?
Because they've been testing the drugs on people.
Right. Okay, but then they're dropping a hallucinogenic gas onto him from the air.
Mm-hmm. Then
Well,
they land.
What about his recollection of just before, as he watches the helicopter come?
It was bright lights, so he wasn't really like getting it. The bright lights were coming. It's
they
1957.
spray
Has he ever seen a helicopter before? Don't
They
know.
spray him, and he immediately starts hallucinating this
Yep.
scenario. Okay.
They take him up to the ship. They strip him down. They rub him with an antiseptic gel. The woman that he saw, Villas Boas described her as almond-shaped eyes, so very Asian. According to Kovac, it was actually an Asian prostitute that they had brought that he had sex with.
So wait a minute.
Well,
Yeah.
they went to a lot of work for this guy.
They're just like, hey, let's go out and take a Brazilian farmer tonight and get him laid.
But he wasn't the only one. Apparently, other people had been experiencing alien abductions in Central and South America in the 1950s and 60s.
I wish I was a farmer during that time in Brazil. I
You
get
are-
so much ass.
With that in mind, I have to go with no. We know that the government experimented on people with LSD. We know that happened in the 60s. We know that happened.
But I've never heard of it being shot out of a helicopter from above. I'm there minding my own business, farming at night, as usual.
He got a guy. He farms at night. Let's mess with him.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like this story for me, for your side of it is just they're just randomly flying around looking for a farmer by himself in the field, and they
looking
have
for
a prostitute on the helicopter just waiting in case they find this Brazilian farmer that they could have them mate.
Good point.
I don't buy in his story.
Well, sorry. I'm going to say this is mostly not true.
Well, I think you were on hallucinogenics when you found this story. Because that's even more bizarre than Villas Boas telling his side.
Don't you at any time remember being approached by a helicopter and then it dumping hallucinogens on you? Don't you remember that?
All the time. That happens to me every day.
Oh, a common occurrence.
All right, so you're saying it is not a mostly
I don't
true in this
believe
story.
it. I don't believe it. And you know, the red spots that you said that were on him, he said that the people on the ship had put these suction things on him and they actually sucked blood out of him. And he could see the blood being sucked out of him. And the other thing that's interesting is that Villas Boas didn't report this to anybody for 2 months before he went to talk to somebody about it. He didn't even tell his brother that he got abducted.
Perry, when did you report your experience? Yeah, but just to
the next morning, Gordon. I talked about it.
to Gordon. But
Yeah.
after that, kind of sat on it, right?
No. Then after that, a couple of days later, I was on the phone with Jonathan Walker, and he said, "Read Communion."
See?
It's been alive. This thing has come. It's not like any other dream or nightmare I've ever had. And like I said, it might not have in our in our 3D of dimension that we're living in. Maybe nothing happened, but what's to say that wasn't an interdimensional?
That's trippy. So, all right. So,
Trippy is a good word.
yeah. So, Andrew, you think it's not a mostly
I don't
true
think
alien
it's
story?
mostly
Okay, now
true.
it's my turn to weigh in.
Uh-oh.
Listen, I love the whole fantasy idea of mating with a hot alien, right? I think that's very, very cool story. And I don't think that, I don't care how much hallucinogenics that you spray on me, I'm going to come up with that idea in 1957. I don't see how that, a farmer in Brazil, it doesn't matter how much money he has or what he's doing, you're not going to force this.
It's an elaborate ruse.
It's an elaborate, yeah. I just don't know how you can make that up. I don't know how you can force that to happen when they're trying to, you're saying that the government was trying to make them think that there were UFOs all over the area.
Well, we'll take random farmers and dump hallucinogen.
And then we're going to shrink the moon
Yes.
and put it in our backyard. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I think that there is a little Antonio Villas Boas alien hybrid somewhere in our universe because
Red
I
arm
think
hair.
that's right. With arm hair, it would like nice body hair, and
Sasquatch often appears with that color.
I mean, there you go.
Maybe she's a product of, one in.
But listen, I mean, good for you for trying with this story about the freaking government spraying these guys and taking them on board. I honestly think that this happened to Antonio. I feel bad for the guy. He kept it quiet. I think it probably disturbed him for quite some time, and probably the reason why he didn't tell anybody. He didn't know how to conduct himself or how to approach anyone or who to talk to or how to get help. But after festering over this for a couple of months, he finally was like, I got to talk to somebody about this and figure this out, see if there's some validity to it. But I think he was taken. I think his tractor died, and then he was taken, and that's what happened to him. And I would like to know if he was treated for radiation poisoning. That is something that I would like to know more about. I would like to know how he died. I don't know what
he died in 91, I think.
91, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but he went and he got married and he had kids and everything. So
yeah, he has one extra kid somewhere, and he's going to come back. But I think this is a mostly true alien story. Perry, yeah, Perry does as well. Me and Perry, and it's me and Perry against you, Andrews. Yeah,
that's
it's
fine.
2-1,
guys.
It's a great show.
Listeners, Andrew, that's amazing information. That's a whole other.
Yeah. That's what he does. That's why I let you go first, Perry, because I don't know, would have that swayed your answer?
Right. And where did you find that information?
There's several things on the Villas Boas things, and it's actually considered not one of the most believable of the alien stories. The abductions, Fire in the Sky is actually more believable than Villas Boas.
According to the ratings of whether it's more fair. You know what?
Well,
you bring me to a good point. So listeners, we'd like for you to start weighing in on these stories. So add it in the comments whether you think it's a mostly true alien story or not. And also let us know what stories you'd like us to dive a little deeper into.
We should go out with the Beatles, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. That's what we should fade out to.
In the sky with diamonds.
There you go.
Perry, I want to thank you for sharing your alien abduction experience. I love the story. I know it's a vulnerable thing to share with people.
I love sharing it. And it's one of my favorite things about me, that story.
It's one of my favorite things about you as well. Not only that, but your artwork. Everybody go check it out. We don't know where to send you to find Perry, but you're going to go to Facebook, Perry Arthur Kroeger.
Again, listeners, his address is 1816.
I don't really live there, everybody. I don't know.
All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's another episode of it. Mostly True Alien Stories. We'll see you on the next one.
UFO sightings. Many Americans have wondered about there's an unknown object